I just mentioned consciousness, so I'm legally required, I think, to quote at length from Pete Holmes' book, Comedy Sex God Now. Pete Holmes, another fun comedian, certified silly billy of a man. His own journey to authenticity, well documented on his podcast, You Made It Weird, also with his HBO show, Crashing. I also have to mention, great title for a book because it sounds like he is calling himself a comedy sex god when you first read the title, right? But the title is actually, more like comedy, comma, sex, comedy, god, So those are three separate subjects he tackles in the book, not one unified descriptor of how he sees himself. Anyway, in Comedy Sex God, Pete Holmes is talking about this spiritual mentor of his, Ram Dass. He's a dude who used to be a psychology professor at Harvard, along with Timothy Leary, the fella Richard Nixon thought was trying to ruin America's youth with drugs. Ram Dass, he tripped on some LSD and then became an Eastern spiritual leader, something along those lines. But anyway, this is Pete in his book. Trust me, this is related to what I've been talking about in terms of being authentic on stage, personality, acting, embodied consciousness. This is going to make sense, but Comedy Sex God, there's that. This is Pete Holmes, Comedy Sex God. This packaging we find ourselves in, our bodies, it's just a uniform. You're not a Jew. You are awareness in Jewish packaging. I'm not a tall, soft Lithuanian. I'm awareness in tall, soft Lithuanian packaging. Ram Dass expanded my "what is this" to include a very big "who is this?" I never really understood the significance of this question before him. My whole life, when people would say, the most important question you can ask is, who am I? I always took the question as an invitation to excavate your personality. Don't leave anything behind. Find out if you like sushi, or hiking, or bubble tea ice cream. Through all of my 20s and early 30s, if someone had commanded me to know thyself, I would have replied, I do. I am Pete. I am a soft, right-handed comedian from Lexington, Massachusetts, who likes peanut butter, the first two Christopher Nolan Batman movies, and, despite social pressures, doesn't really care for the Beatles. I'm sorry, it just sounds like kids' music to me. That's how I thought you answered the biggest question of life. Just really digging in and laying out your preferences and your dislikes for all to see. As if after you did that, you'd look back on your life as an old man, satisfied, and say, everyone knew how I took my coffee. But I was learning that perhaps the better way to ask this question would be, who are you really? What is consciousness? In other words, what is looking out your eyes right now? That's awareness. And when all the great spiritual teachers say you have to die to your little self and awaken to your big self, that's what they mean. In fact, that's how I would summarize all of spirituality. You are not your thoughts, you are not your personality, you are the elemental, pure, eternal consciousness residing behind those thoughts. Lay down your ego, stop collecting meaningless shit, wake up, and rest in that awareness. It's who you really are. Now, I think Pete is onto something, but I also think we can't spend all of our time tripping on mushrooms, He's onto something in that by suppressing your own ego, by not being entirely ruled by your own embodied desires, the feelings inside you that say, I want this, I need this, you can expand your perspective to include the wider world. There's other consciousnesses out there, right? All that social bonding stuff that we need. So, if you aren't inwardly focused on everything your feelings are telling you to do, you might be able to get more in touch with the thoughts and feelings of others around you, Wouldn't that be nice, right? Your consciousness can interact with other people's consciousness. You can get this sense that we, as conscious beings, as awareness in general, as Ram Dass was trying to say, that we are connected in a different and special way compared to other life out in nature. You know, if you can get over your own vulnerabilities, the things your ego is trying to protect, you might be able to reach deeper connections with other people. You can't do this forever, right? You still have to eat and drink and work and survive as an individual in the world at the end of the day, right? Human beings didn't evolve the capacity to successfully meditate our way into a perpetually self-sustaining global shared consciousness thing, right? We still have shit to do to make our way in the world. However, we might be able to have transcendent moments together here and there. That's still available. I see art and therefore stand-up comedy as one such opportunity. If you're doing it right, I think the stage is a space to try to dissolve your ego, drop your desires, drop your fears, drop your defenses. You can plant your feet on some different ground other than the ego, right? The stage is about dissolving boundaries and connecting with everyone else. It's weird. It's weirdly not about you. You have to be you, the authentic you, but you want to reach to see the world through different eyes. That's very much part of the project.